Thank you. Welcome this evening. Just a reminder to silence your cell phones. And again, if it does go off, we'll wait and let you answer it. That being said, I want to say thank you to Emma Aperson and Addison Tonard for opening the Lee County Commission. This evening, we do have the young commissioners attending. We had a wonderful 2.5 hours, 2 hours in the side room and took some very interesting questions, and I did take notes. So, without further ado, do I have any additional items for the agenda?
Is somebody speaking? Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I just had a question about two. It looks like 6D and 6E. Without objection, I would move that it go to, what is that thing called? Consent agenda. I couldn't remember.
Motion's been made to move items 6D and 6E to the consent agenda. Any discussion? Seeing there is none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So right now, 6D and 6E are now part of the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, that took care of my problem too. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, sir. Do I have approval of the consent agenda?
If I may, real quick on that one, Mr. Chair, for 2P, Southern Health Partners Agreement, it can stay under consent, but I do want the board to know I have requested a couple of changes to the terms of the agreement. So if the board is okay, we can leave it there. Just know that a couple of the terms may change. It's not the money or the length, but it's about some of the staffing. And once it's gone through legal review, authorize the chair to sign it.
Is that the Lee County Promise?
No, sir, it's the Southern Health Partners Agreements for the nursing staff at the jail.
Oh, okay. All right.
Any discussions on the attorney's suggestions?
No objection.
Anything else on the consent agenda? Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
So moved.
Motion's been made to approve the consent agenda as amended. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item number 3 on the agenda is the introduction of the 2022 Lee County Young Commissioners Leadership Program participants. And yes, ma'am, you're up.
Good evening, Board of Commissioners. My name is Casey Davis. I am a recent graduate of Lee Early College and will be attending UNC Charlotte in the fall. I am also the president of Lee County Young Commissioners. Lee County Young Commissioners help youth to learn and practice life skills that will help them in their future, whether it be applying for college or applying for a job. It teaches them networking and introduces them to local business people who become contacts for our future. Our club goal is to work on leadership and soft skills and become better citizens of Sanford and Lee County.
And we're going to have each one introduce themselves, and please tell us what school you go to.
Hello, my name is Addison Tonard. I'm going into the 9th grade, and I'm also going to attend Lee Early College.
My name is Emma Apperson. I am 16 years old, and this fall I'll be going to the 11th grade at Lee Early College.
Good evening. My name is Isabella Durr. I'm 15 and I'm a rising sophomore at Lee Early College.
Hi, my name is Emily Quintana. I'm going into the 10th grade at Lee Early College.
Hi, I'm Kyla Morgan. I just graduated at Penn Foster High.
Hi, my name is Sky Robertson. I'll be attending Lee Early College and I'm a 12th grader.
Hello, my name is is Amber Salvador, and I just recently graduated as a 10th grader from Ascend Leadership Academy.
Hi, I'm Emily Hanna. I am going into the 8th grade and I am homeschooled.
Hi, I'm Isabella Oberkirsch. I'm 13 and I'm going into 8th grade at Lee Christian School.
Hi, I'm Omar Brito, and I'm going into the 9th grade at Lee Early College.
Hi, my name is Naomi Salvador, and I will be entering my first year of high school at Lee Early College.
Hi, my name is Malia, and I go to Stanley Middle School, and I am entering the 8th grade.
My name is Larry Tart, and I'm going into 12th grade at Lee Early College.
My name's Andy Tart, and I will be a senior at Lee Early College.
Thank you very much. And the two Tart sisters were also legislative pages, and we got to see them this past week at the legislature when the North Carolina Association of County Commissions had their legislative day. So it was a pleasure sitting in the old Capitol building up in the very cramped little cubby holes they put the public in, and to see two former young commissioners from Lee County being represented at the state. We're very proud of them, and thank you. Next item I have is a presentation of resolution.
Before we move on in the agenda, if we could have the young commissioners come forward for a picture.
Oh, I'm sorry. If we can get the commissioners together here. That's you. If you get everybody, let's go on. Because there's a bunch of.
Right here, right? I thought about it myself.
It is my honor to present a tribute resolution honoring Veteran Services employee John Sandrock. Whereas John Sandrock has contributed greatly to the development of Lee County through his service at the Enrichment Center and the Lee County Veterans Council, and whereas John Sandrock came to work for Lee County Government Veterans Services part-time in July of 2009, became full-time in July of 2011, retired April 1st, 2020, then returned part-time to assist the Veterans Affairs Office from November of 2020 to November of 2021. And whereas it was John Sandrock who brought the idea of Lee County Veterans Council to the Lee County Board of Commissioners and established the council on November 1st, 2010, where he served as an officer and member of the Veterans Council until March of 2020. And whereas the Veterans Council has been instrumental in the construction and fundraising of the North Carolina Veterans Memorial in Broadway, North Carolina. And whereas whereas John Sandrock's energy, kindness, and graciousness has enriched those fortunate enough to know and work with him. And whereas he was commended on a regular basis for his ability to work with the Lee County veterans when filing claims and within the community. And whereas John also loved working with the older adults in the senior center setting and always went the extra mile to attend a community event, assist with all activities of the Enrichment Center, and was all around a valued member of the team with a staff that worked so well together. And whereas the Lee County Board of Commissioners wishes to recognize and acknowledge the valuable service rendered by John Sandrock to the people of Lee County and express gratitude to him for his service. And now, therefore be it resolved by the Lee County Board of Commissioners that a tribute is hereby bestowed upon John Sandrock for his numerous years of devoted service and meaningful contributions as means of expressing appreciation and offering sincere condolences to the family. Signed this day of 20 June 2022. Thank you.
To the commissioners, I thank you. John would have never expected this. He woke up every day with a song in his heart and a smile on his face. Happy and grateful to work with the staff at the Enrichment Center and honored to work for veterans. On his behalf, I thank you very much.
Do I hear a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Motion's been made to approve the resolution. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
And if we could have senior services staff come to the front, we would like to get a picture of everyone here who's in support. Thank you.
I thank everyone for helping with that resolution. Next item on the agenda is public comments. First individual I have is Kathy Griffith. And Kathy, if you'd be so kind to tell us your name as well and your address for the clerk.
My name is Kathy Griffith. I live at 304 South Main Street in Broadway. I'm here to say thank you to all the commissioners for your support and for moving ahead with the new library and for supporting our library as it is right now. I am glad that you recognize what a vital resource it is for the entire population of Lee County, and you are to be commended for that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next individual on the public comments is Mr. Jim Womack. Evening, sir.
Good evening. My name is Jim Womack. I live at 1615 Boone Trail Road here in Sanford, North Carolina. 3 things that I wanted to mention tonight. One, does my heart good to see the Young Commissioners Program alive and well in Lee County. I just wish all 100 counties in the state of North Carolina were to emulate that same program, and I genuinely want to express my appreciation to Chairman Kirk Smith and to Bill Stone for sustaining this program for all these years. It's been a magnificent success, and I remember when it was first formed and how there were some questions about whether it would survive, and it's doing as well as ever. I just wish there were a few more young men that were taking as much interest in it as the young ladies do. But they'll be governing one day, and they learn a lot from the program, and it does this county a lot of good. Second item, John Sandrock was a dear friend, and I really appreciate you guys putting the effort together to draw up a resolution. I don't know of any citizen outside of Lee County. He lived in Harnett County. I don't know any citizen outside of Lee County that did more to help Lee County than John Sandrock. He was a magnificent supporter of the veterans here, and we can't repay Maggie enough for the work that John did over all those years, and he'll forever live in our memories. The last item I wanted to mention briefly is about taxes. You're about to do something tonight that's unprecedented, at least to my mind, and that is you're going to, in a non-revaluation year, you're about to reduce taxes on the citizens and taxpayers of this county. And I want to tell you, on behalf of the taxpayers, and I think I speak for every one of them, we appreciate that. We appreciate the fact that you're conscientious enough to recognize in this period of hyperinflation, where people are struggling to get by, having to pay nearly $5 a gallon for gasoline, that you are considerate enough to not raise taxes on our taxpayers this year. I will tell you that Guilford County, by contrast, which has historically had a lower tax rate than Lee County, their revenue neutral rate in the reval this year was 59 3/4 cents on the 100. And they're raising their tax rate to 73.5 cents on the 100. In other words, they're going to have a higher tax rate than Lee County for the first time as long as I can remember. And this is in a reval year where their revenue neutral rate was 14 cents less. I got to tell you, that speaks well of this board, this commission, of the county manager, of the county department chiefs. I am really proud to call myself a Lee County resident, and just proud of the work that you've done this year to keep those rates down on our taxpayers. And on behalf of all of them, I just tell you thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the resolution and purchase of the Buggy Factory building. And Ms. Parrish?
Yes. So the general statutes allow for local governments to purchase real property by installment contract, and we're looking at doing that now with the Buggy Factory. Progressive Development Corporation has decided to sell the building, and we're looking at purchase it. Before we entered into the contract involving the real property, a public hearing had to be held. We held that public hearing at our last meeting, and no one spoke in favor or against. We also advertised that public hearing on May 19th in the newspaper. And now we're asking the board if they wish to move forward with the purchase of the property, setting a closing date of June 30th, subject to the City of Sanford approving its lease from Lee County at its June 21st regular council meeting, and allowing the county manager and chair the authority to sign all contracts related to the transfer of the property. On the agenda, you could see the deed of trust, the installment financing agreement, and then the purchase of the property along with the amortization calculator. The purchase of the property will be $5.125 million, with $1.5 million down. So the finance installment agreement will be for $3,625,000 over 4 years, which gives us a monthly payment of $75,520.83. And I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Does anybody have questions of Whitney? Do I hear a motion? Motion's been made to approve the resolution and purchase of the Buggy Factory building for $5,125,000. Any further discussion?
Setting the closing date June 30th and subject to the City of Sanford approving the lease tomorrow night at its June 21st meeting.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
And what's the number of years for the city?
The lease will be for 4 years. And we're going to approve that on our next item.
Okay.
Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
One
I'd like
opposed.
the record to show that I would prefer investing in property we've already purchased down at the courthouse. I have no problem with the agreement that Sanford is offering us. It's just my preference that we purchase.
Thank you, sir.
Place a building where we own land already.
Next item on the agenda is approved lease with the City of Sanford and the Sanford Area Growth Alliance for space at the Buggy Factory building, and authorize the county manager to sign any lease for 1 year or less in duration.
Yes, sir. I'll also take that and I can give you the information and then I will ask for 3 votes on this matter. So pursuant to the general statutes, the county can lease property that the county determines is not needed for a term of the lease, and for property less than 10 years, we must adopt a resolution authorizing the lease at a regular board meeting, and we did have to provide 30 days public notice of our intent to enter into the leases. That is also attached as an abstract or agenda attachment where we notice our intent to enter into both of these leases on May 19th of 2022. So both of these leases, the first is with Sanford Area Growth Alliance, where we're agreeing to lease space where it currently operates for 10 years, and the City of Sanford will be for 4 years. And then we're going to also ask the board to authorize the county manager to sign any lease at the Buggy Factory that will be for 1 year or less. He'll be able to do that without the board's authority. We will enter into a lease with Progressive and then 2 other tenants that will need to lease the space for a year or less as they vacate that top floor of the Buggy Factory. So before I go through each vote, does anyone have any questions for me?
Any questions for the attorney? Seeing there's none, do I have a motion to approve the lease and MO?
We can approve the lease and MOA with the City of Sanford, adopt the authorizing resolution, and authorize the chair to sign any and all documents related to that lease first.
Okay.
So moved.
Motion's been made to all approve the lease and the memorandum of, agreement with the City of Sanford, and adopt the authorization resolution authorizing the county manager to sign any lease at the Buggy Factory for 1 year or less. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And then the second motion will be to authorize the lease with the Sanford Area Growth Alliance, adopt the authorizing resolution, and authorize the county or the board chair to sign all documents related to that.
Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion been made to approve the lease with the Sanford Area Growth Alliance and adopt the authorizing resolution. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And then the last is just to authorize the county manager to sign any lease at the Buggy Factory for 1 year or less.
And do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion's been made to authorize the county manager to sign any lease at the Buggy Factory for 1 year or less. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
And if I could ask, the next item on the agenda is appointments to boards and commissions. If I could ask you to please fill out your ballot and turn that into the, and you must sign it?
So yes, the statute requires that if the board chooses to vote by ballot, which you will have to actually make a motion to vote by ballot in order to proceed with that method.
Motion's been made to move. Motion's been made to select by ballot the selection and appointments to the various commissions and boards based on the application submitted. Any discussion?
Yes, I want to make one comment. I want to ask the clerk, in some cases, I've noticed the name of an individual who's already serving who also applied for a different board. I voted for that individual, but are you going to follow up and find out, for example, if they really have an interest in two boards or one board, or what the situation will be?
So the board's policy is that any individual can serve up to two boards
Right.
at any one time.
Right.
And so if their service exceeds that policy, yes, I would ask them which boards they would wish to choose.
No, it doesn't exceed it. What I'm saying to you is there's another individual applying for the same position, and I'd rather find out if that person would like to stay where they are and take the other board, or allow another individual who's applied for that seat to come on board. Is that complicated?
It doesn't, but, you know, when the board makes their selections tonight, you know, they're making that selection. And so what that will require us to do is basically to ask a selection that is made to either affirm that they want to accept the selection or deny it, and we bring that back to the board to make an alternate decision.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that you find out from the individual, would you rather stay on this board or get a new board? And if they say stay on the board, that's fine.
Okay?
Yeah.
So the ballots are in front of you if you want to proceed making your selection. Once those selections are made, if you want to pass them down our way, you'll need to sign it in order for that ballot to be effective. What we'll do is we'll tally those ballots, and if we can have an opportunity before commissioner comments, we will announce the results of that ballot. Just as a note, you know, the board did receive information last week that there was a resignation on the CCCC Board of Trustees, and due to the timing of the receipt of that information, the board will be proceeding, it is my understanding, on making a decision on that appointment to the vacancy at the next meeting in July. So that's just a note for the record. Other than that, we will announce the results shortly after the board finishes the tally. And
Did we have a vote on that, Madam Clerk? To select by ballot?
I'm not sure if that
We
vote
had a
was
question,
completed.
correct?
You had a motion already.
Yeah, we had a motion on the table.
Discussion. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
All right, I've done my homework. Here, pass it
And
in.
if Haley can pick up our ballots.
Mr. Chairman, while we're collecting the ballots, I just want to recognize the fact that it's refreshing to see all the people who applied. And there's a limited number of seats. I just appreciate the participation, and I hope they're not too disappointed. They rose to the occasion to apply, even though they don't get selected.
And we still have vacancies on other boards.
Yes, sir.
Quite a few vacancies.
We'll
Board of-
continue advertising those on the website and via social media.
Thank you, ma'am. Next item on the agenda is new business, approval of the Sanford Area Growth Alliance contract for fiscal year 2022, 2023.
I can take it.
Okay.
So each year we contract with Saga for its economic development services for the county. This year, that amount that we will be funding is $381,520. The contract is attached. I do have at your seats, after a discussion Friday, if you will look at 8F, we just made the section indicating whether or not there has to be a financial review or an audit. We made the change that for fiscal years and odd number of years, a financial review will be conducted, and for fiscal years and even number of years, an audit will be conducted. It did previously have old 2015, 2016 years, so we just cleared that up a little bit. And I believe I let Saga, we talked about that Friday, so they are aware of that change.
Any questions of Whitney?
Move to approve.
Motion's been made to approve the Saga contract for 2022 and 2023. Any further discussion? Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the 2023 reappraisal update. Mr. Brown.
Good evening, Commissioners, county staff. Certainly appreciate the opportunity to be before you tonight. We just want to take a few minutes and talk about an update of the 2023 reappraisal. A reappraisal is a process by where we take and reappraise all real property in the county as of January 1 of 23. Real property does change over a period of time. We have a very active real estate market currently, as everyone probably is aware of. We would be looking at valuing the land, buildings, structures, and improvements with this reappraisal. So the goal of a reappraisal is basically to value all real property at its true value as of the year of the general reappraisal. Therefore, we would tax all property to all the taxpayers fairly and equitably by doing that. So true value, what do we mean when we say true value? It's interpreted as meaning market value, price estimated in terms of money, which a willing buyer, willing seller, no duress, both having no compulsion to buy or sell the land, reasonable knowledge of the uses of the land and what it could be used for. Our next reappraisal, effective January 1 of 2023, state law requires reappraisals to occur every 8 years in North Carolina. The Lee County Board of Commissioners, by resolution, have approved Lee County to be on a 4-year cycle. Our last reappraisal was January 1 of 2019. And the process by what we do, where we value all the properties at one given date, as on January 1 of 2023, is known as mass appraisal. The North Carolina Department of Revenue does a random sample sales ratio study basically for the, public utility purposes, and also for now in the last several years back, it's been done to actually be a trigger for reappraisals. Since we're on a 4-year cycle, that trigger would not be something to affect us. So with this random sample, 2019 was a reappraisal year. Our sales ratio random sample study came in at 97.53%. For 2020 at 93.57%. 2021 at 89.88%. And this past April, we received our study for 2022 at 73.89%. So just for a little clarification, the 2022 sales were each of those, the years that is outlined above, the prior year are their sales that make up that. So for 2022, the 21 sales were used, so our ratio probably at this time may be even less than the 73.89%. So about the reappraisal, it's a 2.5-year project for us at this time. We started January of '21, and we will probably finish this project, and the last end of the project would be the appeals process. Hopefully, we will finish in June of '23. At this time, we have about 32,000 parcels. We're still growing. About 3,000 of those parcels are commercial, public utility, or exempted excluded properties. We have divided the county up into 226 neighborhoods, and staff will be reviewing that information on those neighborhoods as we move through this process. We divide the county up into neighborhoods to make the information that we're working with a little bit more feasible to work with, and then we try to value like properties in like areas. The county will be performing the reappraisal on the residential properties, vacant residential land, and residential improved. We've hired a vendor to assist us with our commercial and industrial properties, and we've been working with them quite a bit lately, and the project seems to be going well. So with the neighborhoods that we spoke of just a minute ago, the over 200 neighborhoods, staff reviews the information on like and similar properties by neighborhood to determine the assessed value. In this process, we do look at sales cost and income approach to value when we're performing our appraisal. As we go through this process, we'll be doing several different things in regards to public relations. We'll probably have in October's Sanford Herald, we'll probably have an insert that'll be informative about the reappraisal. It'll have some Q&A within it and give taxpayers information that we think is important in regards to the reappraisal. The library will actually put information over there. We'll have some brochures and pamphlets and things of that nature. Radio, the last reappraisal that we did in 2019, we were able to have a interview with the local radio station and talk with them, and I thought that went rather well. We also are willing to talk with civic groups, homeowners associations. We also will be trying to work with Haley also when we start trying to do some of our social media parts of our reappraisal. This reappraisal will be interesting because of the value changes that we are possibly looking at, and we're trying to reach as many people as we can in talking to them about this reappraisal. I have some example sales that I want to show you in just a minute, and these examples are not indicative of what the value would be, but it is information to kind of show you what our value was in 2019 and what our value could be in 2023. The sales that I'm going to show you in just a minute, most of them have taken place since January. The slides are informational, basically to give you information about our current real estate values and further information analysis by our office and making individual neighborhoods and looking at those neighborhoods, and those sales within those neighborhoods will help us and assist us in determining value for 2023. So what we have here is I basically have the 4 bullets there. The first one will be the year of 2019 and the assessed value. Second one will be the sale date and sale price. The third one shows the relationship of the increase from the sale price to the assessed value. And then the last one basically kind of gives you a indication of the neighborhood that this property is in. So the first one we have sold in March of 22 for $424,500, and the assessed value was $235,800, an increase of 80% in the neighborhood as Carolina Trace. I did try to find as many sales as I could in different parts of the county just to have a good cross section. The next sale we have occurred in February of '22 for $265,000. The 2019 assessed value was $189,800, 39% increase in Lee Southeast. The next sale was March of '22, $725,000, assessed value of $519,300, an increase of 39%. And the neighborhood is Lynbrook Russell. Next sale happened in January of '22 for $100,000. 2019 assessed value was $78,200, 28% increase in McKernan Heights. Next sale was February of '22 for $199,000. 2019 assessed value $125,100, increase of almost 60% in Owl's Nest. Sale in March of '22 for $342,000. 2019 assessed value was $204,500, increase of 67%. And it's in Broadway. Next sale was January of '22 for $132,000. 2019 assessed value $117,400, 12% increase in the neighborhood is Washington Avenue. Next sale is in February of عنف for $320,000, assessed value of $154,000, increase of 107%, and the neighborhood was West Lee on this one. If I'm not mistaken, this one actually had some additional acreage where some of the other properties I've looked at and shown you were basically house and lot. Sale in February of '22 for $207,500. 2019 assessed value $116,500, increase of 78%, and the neighborhood is North Point Towns. Next sale was January of '22 for $100,000. 2019, the assessed value was $82,700, increase of 21%, neighborhood of Cool Springs. This last sale that I have here is not one that occurred in '22, but I did want to show it just because it does have the same property that sold twice at least. So for January 1st, 2019, we were at 54.9. The first sale was in March of 2020 for $63,000. It sold again the fifth month of 21 for $80,000. So the relationship there of the increase is the 45% increase is the $80,000 to the 54.9. This neighborhood is Charlotte Avenue. So the next slide I want to talk to you about is something that is important from our office and will be in, yes, sir.
You back up again, I didn't catch that last piece.
Yes, sir.
There, right there. Okay. Did you tabulate all those averages and come out with a local average?
No, sir, I didn't. I didn't do that only because I'm just using about 10 random properties that had occurred throughout the county.
I got you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So the process next will be the adoption of schedule of values, of the market value schedules, and the present use value schedules. So this is a process as to where we would come to you in October presenting the schedules to you, and basically the schedules for market value are basically a toolbox for us that kind of gives guidance as to how we would do things and work with things as we try to go through this process of appraising property in Lee County. The market value schedules would do that for market. The present use value schedules come to us by the way of the North Carolina Department of Revenue by the North Carolina Use Value Advisory Board, who is a group of people across the state who've been put together to look at and work to determine the agricultural, horticultural, and forest land values. So they submit that information to us, and then we'll be trying to work with that when we work with the upcoming values for land that qualifies for this special classification as ag, hort, and forest land. So in October, we look to bring the schedules to you to present them to you. We would have a public hearing thereafter for that, and then look to have requests for the adoption in November. So mailing of notices and appeals. Late January, early February, we look to send the reappraisal notices out. Again, we're talking about 32,000 notices at one time. The informal process will be with the assessor's office after notices go out. So the appeals will be handled informally through our office and our staff, and with the vendor who will handle the commercial industrial properties. That would be the informal process. The formal appeal process would be with the Board of Equalization and Review, and that's the body that y'all have appointed as commissioners to sit as the special Board of Equalization Review. So no later than the first Monday in April, no later than the first Monday in May, the Board of Equalization and Review would start up to handle their work. And we would try to look to review and process as many appeals as we could before that time frame, and hopefully we can get those processed in that time frame. And then what we notify taxpayers of values, then they would have a chance to come back to the Board of Equalization Review and appeal should they wish to do so. So after the assessor's office informal, the Board of Equalization Review at the county level also as the formal appeal level. After that, the taxpayers would have to have a decision from the board, the Lee County Board of Equalization and Review, before they could appeal to the North Carolina Property Tax Commission. So someone can't just come in after we've had our informal and formal process and then say, oh, well, I'm just going straight to the state. That's not possible. So the appeals level at the state would be with the North Carolina Property Tax Commission to start with. After they had their case heard there, they then could go on to the Court of Appeals or Supreme Court should it be necessary. Assessed value, tax rate, and tax bills. So the whole function we have here, and for us to value property and then turn around and have a tax rate and then turn around to be able to bill the property is what we're looking at right now. So the assessed value would be in the hands of the assessor. We would take care of assessing all the properties and finalizing those values. After we do that, there's a process where my office actually creates a report to Dr. Crumpton and Lisa Minner for looking at the needs of the county and the budget. Thereafter, they in turn work with you, the county commissioners, into trying to determine what the tax rate should be. So the assessor's office is the value function. The administrative office and county commissioners are the tax rate function. And then after that tax rate is voted on in June by the Board of County Commissioners, our office would turn and mail those tax bills out in July. That's the information we have right now. We still are daily working on information, going to the field, picking up new construction, working on the reappraisal, looking at sales, and it's a long process, but we certainly hope to do a fair and equitable reappraisal and be fair to the citizens of this county. Any questions?
Any questions, Mr. Brown? Commissioner Lovick? Commissioner Reeves?
Good job.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Sharp?
No, sir.
Commissioner LaValle? Commissioner Connect? Commissioner Carver?
No.
Just a plug for the media. We do have an alternate vacancy on the Board of Equalization and Review. We're still recruiting. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your support.
Next item on the agenda is permission for the Lee County Libraries to allow alcohol sales during the PopCon annual event in August of 2022.
Hey, good evening, Lee County Commissioners and Administration. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you regarding a request you will probably say sounds familiar from this time last year. Our annual LCL PopCon event will be held at the main library on Saturday, August 20th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And the library is requesting your approval to allow alcohol vendor sales during this event again. We currently have 2 licensed alcoholic beverage vendors wishing to sell sealed bottles of cider and mead with the opportunity to taste test half-ounce samples in their designated sale area. This area is located directly in front of their tables beneath their tents. Their enthusiasm is twofold. One, of course, is to work with the library because, well, we're awesome. And second is based on the bring more stock from the warehouse because we sold out halfway through the day last year. Starlight Mead was instrumental in helping us pull together several local artists and vendors over the last 2 years who met our Renaissance Fair-esque Comic-Con vibe. The responsible inclusion of their retail sales table, along with other sellers of similar and relatable products, allow us to create a definitive theme for our PopCon and promote local businesses. All our vendors promote our event and reinforce our message that libraries aren't just books anymore. We are a place for experiences, entertainment, and enrichment for all ages. In turn, we select vendors, artists, and crafters who have intentions of sharing and cultivating new and current interests of our community. Starlight's website introduction states, maybe you've heard of Mead from literature, Beowulf, Shakespeare, and Harry Potter, or maybe you remember it from your history books. Whatever you may already know, now is the perfect time to explore Mead, wine made from honey. So tonight's request is really not just focused on allowing the sale of alcohol, but also highlighting purposeful community connections. Becky and Ben Starr of Starlight Mead offer tours of their meadery and introductory classes on how to make your own honey mead, which includes a pretty in-depth exploration of the multitude of mead varieties based on additions of herbs and spices. Anne Marie and David of James Creek also offer a similar opportunity at their cider house and farm with learning all about their orchards, the cider making process, and flavor infusion. When it comes to mead and cider, the process is just as important as the enjoyment. Our objective is to maintain a family-friendly environment that offers a small taste testing opportunity, maintaining appreciation without the overindulgence. The library is dedicated to being the place for all to create, connect, and discover. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions of Beth? Commissioner Levick?
No, good, thank you.
Commissioner Reeves?
I don't like that idea, but I'm fine, thank you.
Commissioner Sharp?
I'm assuming we didn't have any trouble last year.
None at all.
Okay.
Commissioner LaValle?
No questions.
Commissioner Connect? Commissioner Carver?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the request from Lee County Libraries to allow the sale of alcohol at the PopCon annual event held in August? Motion's been made. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on. Mr. Geraldo, are you up next?
We want to know where it starts.
I was under the impression that this 2 items got moved to consent.
Oh, I'm on.
That was 6.
That was 6.
Oh, that's 6, not 5. Oh, man. I should have paid attention to my Roman numerals. But their numbers were in Spanish, I would have got that better.
Yes.
We get organized real quick. So good evening, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. We are here today for project 483781, 170121 for a Horton Pool sanitary facility change order request number 1, which is, we're requesting this in order to address and abate asbestos and lead paint that was discovered at the roof and the windows in the amount of $15,603. And this is for labor at the Horton Pool the pool house itself, but for this project, this is called the sanitary facility.
Move to approve.
Motion been made to approve the addendum, the Horton Pool Sanitary Facility change order number 1. Any further discussion?
That's a good price. I had to pay at least $12,000 for a property I've had for a while, and that's a good price you got.
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Yes, sir. Our second item today is an addendum to the Emergency Medical Services Franchise Agreement with First Health of the Carolinas. As you recall, we had requested the provider to send us information for additional emergency medical services changes to the franchise agreement. This change is in the amount of $132,606 to provide one additional basic life support system ambulance, 24/7, starting at the October 1st. In this contract, amendment does include personnel as well. Somebody asked me that question earlier, so this is the vehicle and the personnel, so the 2 medics. And this is, we reached that agreement based on the data that we received so far since we began tracking that data with First Health, sir. So pending any questions.
And
Thank
there-
you.
Sorry to interrupt. There's a couple of other changes also about the response times. So if you'll see in section 2, it does say that the response time that they have to provide to us will be compiled from the ESO solutions. So it's their systems. And then also, we're going to be having them do the average response time for Delta Echo emergency calls. So
Correct.
just their emergency calls as opposed to their non-emergency, because they shouldn't be penalized if they're going on a non-emergency calls, because we want them to, not run stoplights and that type of thing. But we're still going to track the non-emergency calls to make sure that they're still doing those in a timely fashion.
Can you define difference between non-emergency and emergency?
Yes, sir. Delta and Echo calls are the, no kidding, first responders needed on site to address, possible loss of life, eyesight, limb, true emergency. That requires sirens, running red lights, maybe driving counter traffic, true emergencies. 9 non-life-threatening emergencies are the rest of the calls, and that's what we see. A large majority of the calls are folks that just, for lack of better words, may use the emergency transport as a means to get into the ER. So it might not necessarily, it's not an emergency, but it's somebody that maybe just has a pain or has a small issue that could be addressed. So that when the call comes in, it's classified as either an emergency or non-emergency, and that dictates the response. But our attorney is correct. We are going to track emergency, but we're also going to track non-emergency to ensure that we're not missing any trends and that we can address anything as it changes. The second part of it is that we're compiling data from 911 call center, but now we're going to use true raw data from the system itself so that we can get a better, accurate picture rather than relying on the 911 call centers only. So we will track the data from the systems that actually do the dispatch on the vehicles. So,
Thank you.
yes, sir.
Commissioner Carver, questions?
The emergency versus non-emergency, is it the dispatcher that makes the call on that?
So once the call comes in, the 911 operator is actually certified as a medical person as well. So they make that determination based on the questions they're asked during the call, and that's how the call gets stacked based, either an emergency call, non-emergency call, and that's how they get dispatched. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Connect, question. Commissioner LaValle? Commissioner Sharp? Commissioner Lovick?
I'm good, thank you.
Commissioner Reed stepped out. Okay.
Move to approve.
Motion's been made to approve the addendum to Emergency Medical Services Franchise Agreement with First Health of the Carolinas in the amount of $132,606. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda is the fiscal year 22-23 Lee County JCPC, juvenile, what is it? Thank you, juvenile crime
Good
evening, Lee County Board of Commissioners. My name is Jada Swan, and I'm humbled to chair the Lee County Crime Prevention Council tonight. Tonight, I'm here to present the fiscal year 2022-2023 Lee County JCPC Annual Plan and Certification. Those documents should be included in your agenda packet. The North Carolina Department of Public Safety Division of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention partners with JCPC in each county to galvanize community leaders locally and statewide to reduce and prevent juvenile crime. JCPC board members are appointed by the County Board of Commissioners and meet monthly in each county. During the 2021-2022 fiscal year, the certification will reflect the work product from JCPC members who are committed to assessing the risk and needs of the juveniles in our community, monitoring and evaluation funded programs for effectiveness, and commending funding of programs who are meeting measurable objectives through evidence-based programs types. On the back of your one-page handout, you will find a description of each program recommended for funding. The funding plan proposed is on page 5 of the Lee County JCPC Annual Plan. We are grateful for the opportunity to present the work product of the JCPC on your behalf of the NCDPS and look forward to serving our community in the upcoming fiscal year. Thank you.
Any questions, Ms. Swan? Commissioner Carver?
No, fine.
Commissioner Connect?
Thank you.
Commissioner LaValle?
No questions.
Commissioner Sharp?
No.
Commissioner Reeves?
No.
Commissioner Lovett?
No questions. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm losing my,
So I make a motion that we approve the annual funding plan for JCPC.
motion's been made to approve the annual funding plan for the Lee County JCPC. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Managers Report, May 2022 Financial Report. Ms. Minter.
Good evening. You should have in front of you the May 2022 financial report. As I caution you every meeting, please remember that sales tax run 3 months behind. Our tax collections as a percentage of budget through May 2022 are 0.13% behind the same time period last year. In reviewing the expenditures, the percentage used target is 91.67%. With encumbrances included, we only have a few departments that are over. If we exclude the encumbrances, only juvenile detention was over, and we did do a budget amendment earlier this evening that covered us hopefully through the rest of the year for that cost. And we are just simply running over because we've had more juveniles in detention during this fiscal year. I'll be glad to answer any other questions you may have on the financial report before I move to sales tax.
Any questions?
Not, if you look at the sales tax report, the sales tax distribution, we have 9 months out of 12 in, and in all categories except the Article 44, we are exceeding 100% of what we had budgeted at this time. So we will, as expected, exceed our targets for the fiscal year. For overall, we are seeing approximately a 12% growth for the county-wide sales taxes. And if we include what the city also received, we're seeing about 13.17%. So I'll be glad to entertain any questions.
Any questions of Lisa? Commissioner Lovett? Commissioner Reeves? Commissioner Sharp? Commissioner LaValle? Commissioner Connect? Commissioner Carver? Just keep the numbers up.
Trying our best. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is the county manager's monthly report, and we're so glad he's returned refreshed from California. I understand he only paid $6 and some change for gasoline.
$6.70.
$6.70. Okay.
Yes, it was quite the experience. And thank you to the board for allowing me to go away a couple extra days to go out west. I was also in Arizona. Got to go see the Grand Canyon for the first time, and I would just tell you, if you have not been, as an American, you need to go, because it is quite a special place. I also want to thank the staff for preparing the agenda for tonight. The fact that I have not had to say anything up to this point shows that they did all the work for this agenda tonight, and thank them for covering me while I was gone. First item I need to do is I need to introduce Ben McQueary. Ben is our, stand up Ben so they can see you, is our new ICMA NCAC Management Fellow. And for the board members who haven't been around, this is our third fellow, and between the ICMA and the NCACC, they pay 50% of the expenses of having been around for 18 to 24 months to help us. And right now, Ben's working on our annual county report to the people. So he'll get to work closely with the chairman after he comes back from getting married this weekend coming up. So congratulations to Ben, and we're glad to have him on the team. Our ongoing projects, we continue to work hard on the Moore Training Facility and getting the hazardous waste permit eliminated from the facility. We've received a letter from DEQ approving the remediation plan, work plan that TerraQuest submitted. We're very excited that the beginning the next week, they should start doing some soil borings and other things and be moving along on the project, and should be finished with the main amount of work by August 1st. There'll be some ongoing work that has to continue, but you know, they have a pretty aggressive timeline. I have to report to the board how much money we've spent on this project so far, and up to this point, it's $111,193 in planning, testing, and additional costs. I want to let the board know that in the coming week, I'll be committing the entire remaining amount of the original $250,000 the board approved for this project, and probably will be coming back to the board July 11th for additional funds. Remind the board that Morelli committed $100,000 to the cleanup. The developer committed $250,000, and the county committed $250,000 for a budget of roughly $600,000. We're also getting commitments, hopefully, in the upcoming revised biennium budget from the legislature to help us with the cleanup. And hopefully at the July meeting, they will have passed the budget, and I can communicate the amount of money we'll be getting from the legislature. But at this time, there's no reason for the community college not to proceed with the projects. NCDEQ has indicated work can begin. They believe the work plan is sufficient, that the buildings could be occupied once the work is completed and additional testing is done for the next few years. So we're over a big hurdle here, and I think things look good over there, right next door here. Moving on to the multi-sports complex, we're still working on the Plan C modifications, and we went to the TRC meeting at the end of May. It went really well. Got a lot of positive comments, just a few suggestions, and we hope to come to the board in either July or August with preliminary estimates on what we can fund of our plan. The library building project continues in its conceptual design work, and we hope to have some things back to the board soon on that as well. Update on the older projects. The main courthouse project is essentially complete except for a small punch list items. We're still waiting on the parking lot security equipment. Some of it was being installed today. So once that is finished, we'll be finished at the courthouse, and work continues on the government center. Been quite the project there. We should be finished hopefully by July 8th on that project. The historic courthouse renovation project is about to start. We are working with the state on the RFQ for design, and it was approved at the end of last week, so we'll be moving along on that. Parking lot projects are essentially complete except for an ADA ramp that we had to install at the government center and the lights at the Colts parking lot. Already been over to Horton Pool project, the Hale Center. You know, we're still in design of the HVAC system, and we will not have the HVAC system ready for the Russian Pallet Show, as we have not gone to bid yet, and it's estimated that just to get the equipment on site will take 20 weeks. So, you know, supply chain issues are going to affect another project of ours. So we're doing our best and hope to have, you know, a report to the board in July about where that project is heading. We have reports, many reports. A couple of reports that aren't normally on here are the Sand Hills Mental Health Quarterly Report ending March 31st, and the fuel report. As the board knows, my PO authority is $30,000. So anytime I approve fuel purchases over $30,000, I have to notify the board. And so there should be an attachment that would show there's five or six purchases that were over that $30,000. Right now, a tanker load of diesel is running us close to $40,000. So, sorry for that, but that's the way that is. We're still on the once a month meeting schedule, so we meet July 11th, August 8th, and September 12th. And I want to remind the board that the NCACC annual conference in Cabarrus County is August 11th to the 14th. And I believe that is everything, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of the county manager?
I've got one regarding the Buggy Factory.
Yes, sir.
After signing, if the city should sign the lease, will they have options after the 4 years up?
Yes, sir. They could leave at that point. They could stay. Obviously, we would like for them to stay. We have talked with Saga. Their contract is a 10-year contract. They intend to stay with us. So we think that the one-stop shop and committing to that will hopefully commit the city to a longer term as well. But obviously, they have some options and probably want to see how we manage the facility for a few years.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions of the manager? It's now time for commissioners' comments. Commissioner Lovick.
Before we move on
Oh,
to
I'm
commissioners'
sorry.
comments, would you like to hear the results of the board appointments?
Please.
Okay. I'm just going to kind of run through them board by board. Agriculture Advisory Board, we've got Ed Angel for Greenwood, Thomas Hayslip for Pocket, Richard Barker for Jonesboro, Donald Nicholson for Greenwood, and Jane Behringer for Deep River. I know a couple of you had write-ins for Malilla O'Neill, but we have her as, based on following this ballot, as already serving on 2 other boards. So just wanted that noted. Cemetery Board of Trustees, Jessica Daniels. Fire Advisory Board, Josh Billings, Jacob Newton, Andrew Womble. Joint Sanford-Lee County Environmental Affairs Board, Berkeley Griffin Hillis. And just a note for this one, the ballot was updated because Malilla O'Neill, while she had applied, her term actually does not expire until 2023. There was another individual whose term was expiring this month, and so she still has another year on her service on that board. The Library Board of Trustees, we have Bill Tannenbaum and Christopher Beal. The Lee County Planning Board, on the regular appointments, we have David Bernard, Mia Simpson, and Walter Ferguson. On the alternates, we have Stephen Baber and Dale Stansel. For the Central Carolina Board of Trustees, we have James Womack. On Joint Nursing Adult Family Care Home Community Advisory Committee, we have Diane Dowd, Carol Martindale, Marianne Gaster, and Susan Rittenhouse. On the Board of Health, we have Alice Hooker, William Hall, and Oscar Moreno. On the Parks and Recreation Commission, we have Chadburn Spivey as the regular and Douglas McCrimmon as the alternate. On the Senior Services Board, we have Henry Merritt, Cleo Bryant, and James Payne. On the Sanford Area Growth Alliance Board, we have David Bernard and Dale Stansel. I will need the board to make a decision with Dale Stansel. He's currently serving on our Board of Equalization and Review. If the board chooses to proceed with him on the Lee County Planning Board, either we'll need to have him only appointed to 2 of the boards by policy. But we can come back to that. For the Youth Council, we have Georgina Ramos. And for the Transportation Board, we have a reappointment of Malilla O'Neill. So back to the Sanford Area Growth Alliance Board. Does the board wish to proceed with David Bernard on that board? Like I said, he was previously appointed to the Board of Equalization and Review. He's been attending those meetings and he's already attended the training. Dale Stansel, yes. And, but he, you know, on this ballot, he is also applying for the Lee County Planning Board and the Sanford Area Growth Alliance Board, and the board has him selected on both of those. So between the two, we might.
So was he notified that he's already on a board?
He could still serve on one more board, but he can't serve on three.
both of them. Okay. That's what I was saying. When he applied for two and he currently sits on a board?
We did not do a follow-up check on that.
Oh, okay. Do I have a motion? Either substitute?
On his position? I'm trying to understand what you're doing.
So Dale Stansel, based on this selection, you know, he's already on the Board of Equalization and Review, so that he's serving on one board. He can serve on up to two boards by the policy that's been adopted by the Board of Commissioners. So that makes the board to either have to decide whether he serves on the Sanford Area Growth Alliance Board, where he's currently selected, or the Lee County Planning Board.
You know, the Lee County Planning Board is just an alternate, so, right, is that right?
Alternate on which board?
Right now, I believe the votes went, I think the Lee County Planning Board, he's an alternate. So I don't see why we just can't make somebody else an alternate.
I
and make that
agree.
easy.
I agree.
I think the only other person, I don't have the updated one here.
I think it's Derek
Farmer?
I'm sorry?
Derek Farmer was not selected, so he could be chosen as an alternate.
So that's your motion?
Yes.
Motion's been made to remove Dale Stansel on the Lee County Planning Board due to the fact that he already sits on another board and was selected for the Sanford Area Growth Alliance. And the motion is to substitute Derek Farmer as an alternate. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Anything else, Madam Clerk?
That's all from me.
All right. Now we can go. Commissioner Carver.
Thank you. I want to cover something very quickly. If you remember back in January, we got a task force report from people that were authorized to do such a thing by the city. And there were a number of areas that they looked at. The one that I recently looked at was in the justice-involved areas. And it's a broad spectrum, a number of issues that might be looked at, but I was just curious about it. I went to the manager and talked to him about it, and he recommended that I refer my questions to the county manager, which I did. And she was very helpful, tried to explain to me some of the issues that are happening. Obviously, we have a very strong and well-established system of justice in this county. It's not that, but there are always areas of improvement, and that's what we're looking for. She recommended that I go see a lady by the name of Autumn Smith. And she is actually responsible for pretrial interventions and a plethora of other items that she gets involved with. And she's actually considered some of the issues that were raised in that report, and was kind of excited for the fact that maybe somebody might take a look at it. She proposed that we advance an idea of doing a justice-involved advisory committee, or maybe called just Justice Advisory Committee. And the purpose of the committee is to get together some people. You can imagine what a gaggle of people are involved in these things. And to try to suggest that we look at some particular things. There's a big elephant. We're trying to take a couple bites of it. She and I talked to different people, and to give you some interest or give you some identities of people that may show you that there's a lot of interest in this. The sheriff, Sheriff Estes, said that he was willing to chair such a committee because he really knows that there's some issues that need to be talked about. Judge Gilchrist personally sent me an email and said that he would participate, which I thought was interesting. And our Suzanne Matthews was interested, talked to me for a while, and said that she would dedicate somebody to such an effort. There are other people that are interested, some people in the community of faith that, in particular, one, Daniel Owens, who's a pastor at Life Springs, who's interested. And there are a number of other people who are involved in this. And if you can imagine, there's a long spectrum of people that you might want to look at. Some of the issues are making sure that people understand we're not trying to reduce accountability for people that make a mistake. What we are trying to find out, however, is if there are some areas where we can intervene in such a way as to move the system along in the interest of not only the person that's involved, but also Lee County. For example, the perplexing problem of a mental health patient or a person who has somebody called on by the police department. What do they do with them? Who do they talk to? How do we go ahead and handle that kind of a problem? And to be honest with you, we're doing our best, but maybe there's some other areas that we could improve. Another area is the crowding in the jail. We're definitely in a position where maybe if we had some more flexibility and fewer people in there, we could do a better job of dealing with how to improve behavior on the part of not only the inmates, but the people that we're going ahead and releasing. It's a question of having space to be able to do those kind of resources. One of those issues that's associated with that is GPS monitoring. GPS monitoring is effective. We spend $61 a day to keep a person in jail. We spend $5 a day to keep them on a monitor. That's a direct improvement to the cost if we can put more people out there. Obviously, that it requires a great deal of investigation to make sure that the right people are put it back on the street. We're talking about low-level offenders, people that might be first offenders, those kinds of things, and those decisions have to go through Judge Gilchrist. So obviously we have already in place the necessary controls to control those things. Well, anyway, what we've done is we've identified some areas. We put together some people that I think have ideas already and suggestions, and it's kind of in a formative stage, but I wanted you to know that this was happening. Obviously, some of these items fall under the requirements that we have, that we work with on a normal basis on the county, and things that we'll probably be interested in seeing what the recommendations would be from such a committee. The committee has right now scheduled one meeting for the 21st of July, and at that point, we would come back to the board and make recommendations on where we might go from here. The other aspect of this is that obviously the city is interested in what's happening, and we are entertaining adding some of the people from the city with that. So I just wanted to make you aware of what was happening, and we hope to be able to make a report on things that will generally improve the way we're handling our justice-involved people. Thank you for listening. I want to say one thing to Ben. I've been married for 54 years. I just hope you are as blessed as I have been in your choices. Yeah.
Just a question.
Thank you.
Just a question, Commissioner, on the 21st of July. What is the time and location?
We don't have one yet, but
Okay,
we'll,
tentative.
yep,
Anything else, sir?
that's all. Thank you.
Commissioner Connect,
I don't have anything tonight. Thank you. Congratulations.
Commissioner LaValle.
Yes. Last week, we toured East Lee, and we reviewed some capital improvements that we had. And so just looking at some items there, and then with JCPC, I wanted to just speak on their behalf. I'm on their board, and even through COVID, the programs ran really smoothly, and they were out there making sure that our youth is just getting taken care of, and being able to utilize things we have in place. And that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Sharp.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner LaValle, for bringing up the East Lee tour. We did get to see some problems over there, and hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to take care of some of those. I was going to thank the students with the commissioner program and the ones who are involved with that. Thank you for doing that. And but they stepped out on us, so I can't do that. And that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Reeves?
We had a response on the issue regarding relief from mental health for the law enforcement folks yet?
Dr. Crumpton and I will be meeting with Victoria next week.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
I believe it's next week. All right.
Good.
Tuesday.
What time Tuesday?
I don't,
Can you get
I
that
just
to
shut
me?
mine, yes.
Well, one of you let me know what day it is. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Lovick?
Again, on the tour of East Lee, Cameron and Cameron started at west, I started at east the first year they came in, and for 45 years, they're still in really good shape. I was impressed about that part of it. Also, thank you for coming out tonight, each one of you that came. That's good for our county. Sometimes we come in empty seats almost, but thank you for coming out and gave comments tonight. Thank you for the representation from the Enrichment Center on the resolution that we passed. I think that's, we've had passed some resolutions before with no support, but that was, you could tell man was greatly loved in that part of it. But, and for the young commissioners, they're going to be graduating. We got invitations. They're going to be graduating Friday at the McSwain Extension Center. So I'm sure I'll see some of you there for that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We hosted the Lee County Young Commissioners this afternoon, had a very good question and answer session. I want to say thank you to John and the staff for offering their knowledge, their expertise, their preparation, their resources, and I think it went very well. I have nothing further.
Move to adjourn.
Motion's been made to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are now adjourned. Thank you.